In the mysterious city of Avalonia, civilization slowly progresses behind an impassable ring of never-ending mountains. Citizens strongly believe that their future lies beyond these peaks, and many have tried to conquer them, only to fail. But hope is rekindled when Avalonia's greatest explorers, the Clades, take on their greatest challenge yet. Adventurer extraordinaire Jaeger Clade, known for his brutish strength, unwavering courage, and tenacious resilience, sets out with his son, Searcher Clade, whose innate passion for plants is unmatched. Together, they hope to finally find a way through the mountains and into a strange new world. As they journey through a treacherous cave system, Searcher discovers an ominous plant that gives off a green glow. Out of curiosity, he tries to touch it, only to be jolted by a burst of energy. Jaeger jumps in to save his son, and after a near-death experience, they discover that the plant, later dubbed Pando, is a revolutionary discovery that would change Avalonia forever. But Jaeger insists on continuing their quest to get past the mountains, and after 25 years, he is never seen again. Searcher, now a renowned explorer himself, has settled down in the countryside with his wife, Meridian, and their son, Ethan. They spend most of their days harvesting Pando, which has become the primary fuel resource for everything in Avalonia. One day, after a quick fertilizer sweep over the farmlands, Meridian's plane engine stalls. Searcher checks the engine and finds that the battery is dead, despite Meridian having used a new one just an hour before. Ethan's friends come by to show off their limited edition copies of the Primal Outpost game, and Diaz arrives to explain that they got a copy for Ethan too. As Diaz entered the room, Ethan could feel his cheeks flush with embarrassment. He knew Diaz had the hots for him, and the thought made him uneasy. As they opened their game packets, Ethan's heart sank as he discovered he got the farmer card. He had been hoping to get the explorer, just like his grandfather. But then, Diaz offered to trade cards with him, as she had gotten the explorer card in her packet. They started talking about Ethan's grandfather, who had been a renowned explorer. Searcher, who had arrived in the meantime, joined in on their conversation. Ethan felt embarrassed by his father's presence, and cut their meeting short, bidding his friends farewell. Later, as they drove into town to deliver Pando to the citizens, Searcher realized that Ethan might not want to be a farmer like him, but an explorer like his grandfather. Ethan grew curious about his grandfather, and Searcher explained that Jaeger Clade had been a great adventurer to everyone, albeit a lousy father to him. He cared only for fame and conquests, and never really cared for his son. That night, Callisto, now the president of Avalonia, dropped in unannounced on their family dinner, bearing bad news. She explained that Pando was losing its power, and farms in the Northeast Territory were dying and spreading through the kingdom like wildfire. She feared that all Pando farms, including theirs, would cease to exist in a month. Callisto convinced Searcher to join her expedition to save Pando. Ethan assumed he would be joining them, but Searcher stopped him, adamant about his decision. He didn't want to risk his son's life for the thrill of an adventure. Callisto briefed the team about their expedition and what they were getting themselves into. She explained that despite the number of Pando plants on the surface, they converged into one singular organism underground, with a massive root system that was interconnected. They believed that whatever was making all of the Pando sick was attacking the root system at its heart. As they tracked the roots to the Atlas Range, the ground suddenly caved in, opening into a massive sinkhole. They descended through the abyss to search for the heart of Pando. Meanwhile, Meridian arrived in her crop duster and informed Searcher that Ethan and their dog Legend had stowed away on the venture. Suddenly, out of nowhere, fiery red wyvern-like creatures appeared, attacking the airship and taking out the pilot. The ship began to nose-dive deeper into the sinkhole, hurtling toward the unknown depths below. Meridian, quick on her feet, managed to jump aboard and took control of the ship, steering it down into an underground world. As they crash-landed, Searcher and Legend were thrown off the ship, only to be attacked by a mysterious creature known as the Reaper. Just as all hope seemed lost, a gruff-looking figure appeared out of nowhere, revealing himself to be none other than Jaeger, Ethan's estranged father. Jaeger had been living underground for years, attempting to find a way past the mountains that blocked his path. He needed an airship to cross the burning sea, a sea of acid that he could not navigate alone. Meanwhile, the others worked to fix the airship. Ethan, however, couldn't shake the feeling that his father was nearby. He ventured into a mysterious cave, where he stumbled upon a blue, jelly-like creature that he later named Splat. Splat had his father's handkerchief, so Ethan followed him, hoping he would lead him to his dad. Unfortunately, Splat was actually a scout for the Reapers, leading unsuspecting victims to their doom. Ethan managed to grab a few pando seeds that were thrown off the ship, but Splat got electrocuted upon touching one. Ethan pried the seed from Splat's hand, only to find himself surrounded by Reapers. Jaeger appeared just in time to save the boy with his flamethrower, and they made a run for it. Their escape was cut off by more Reapers, but Ethan fell from a great height and was saved by Splat, who had been won over by Ethan's kindness when he treated its wounds earlier. With nowhere else to go, Meridian and Callisto arrived in a flying vehicle to save them all. The group banded together, determined to discover the root of the problem that was causing the pando plants to die out. They faced danger at every turn, but with their combined skills and determination, they pushed forward, determined to save their way of life from certain destruction. As the venture sailed through uncharted territory, tensions rose between Searcher and Jaeger. The former wanted to find Pando's heart, while the latter wanted to cross the burning sea and finally reach the insurmountable mountains. Ethan, the young adventurer, was torn between his grandfather's dreams and his own desires. Their argument came to a head during a game of Primal Outpost, but they eventually put their differences aside and agreed to kill any monsters that posed a threat. However, Ethan reminded them that the game's goal was to build a working civilization by living harmoniously with the environment, not just killing monsters. As the venture approached the burning sea, the adults were unsure whether to cross it or not, but Splat and some of his friends convinced them to try. The creatures brazenly flew through the acid, guided by Splat's knowledge. Although they managed to get past the burning sea, a few Reapers made it on board the ship. Callisto, Jaeger, and Searcher fought them off, while Ethan and Splat helped in their own way. Later, Searcher and Jaeger confronted each other's feelings and realized that they respected each other's goals in life. Searcher explained that he wanted to become a farmer, while Jaeger explained why he insisted on completing the mission instead of returning home 25 years ago. They both wanted to leave a legacy their sons could be proud of. As the venture continued its journey, they finally reached a root cluster of Pando. However, their discovery was short-lived as a horde of creatures suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and they were not far behind. As the group of explorers made their way towards what they believed to be the heart of Pando, they quickly assumed that the monsters were attacking it. Jaeger, their leader, urged them to move on when he saw that they were indeed outnumbered, but Callisto and Searcher were determined to save Pando. While the others argued about what to do next, Searcher had a brilliant idea. He suggested crushing the Pando seeds and spreading them on the creatures, which proved to be very effective. Callisto then ordered her men to gather all their weapons to retrofit the venture into one big crop duster when they had time to themselves. Meanwhile, Searcher tried to bond with Ethan over this particular moment, but Ethan refused his offer as he felt terrible over killing the monsters. Ethan explained that what they were doing felt wrong. Still, when Searcher tried to convince him otherwise, they got into a heated argument after blaming Jaeger for brainwashing his son into being an explorer. Ethan had heard enough when Searcher tried to convince him by saying that he knew what he wanted when Searcher did not ask him what he wanted to become. After a heart-to-heart talk about how each other felt, they realized they had already gone past the mountain where an endless ocean greeted them in what looked like a giant eye. Ethan realized that the strange world was one big living thing, and Avalonia lay on its back all this time, and that Pando was a disease killing it. The creatures that looked like they were attacking Pando were the creature's immune system trying to defend themselves. Searcher and Ethan returned to the venture and explained to everyone what they had seen and what they believed they were doing. Jaeger refused to believe Searcher and flew off to see it for himself. Back at the helm, Meridian and Ethan were taken into custody while Callisto explained that they launched this expedition to save Pando, not this pretend creature that they think Searcher made up. They were locked up in a closet when Legend managed to free them with Splat's help. Meridian took back the bridge while Searcher and Ethan headed out to save the heart. Searcher suggested he dig a hole in the heart using his shovel while Ethan lured the creatures towards it. When Searcher's shovel broke, Jaeger arrived to help him. He explained that despite chasing after the mountains as his legacy, he had finally realized that his legacy was his son, Searcher. Together, they opened a hole into which the creatures entered and broke free from Pando. Although the Pando plants died off, the situation seemed bleak, and Searcher explained that they may have been too late. Just then, orange jelly-like creatures arrived and brought everything back to life. Ready to return to their home, the venture stopped outside the creature to fulfill Jaeger's long-time wish. Despite losing Pando as their fuel resource, the group was hopeful that Avalonia would have a brighter future ahead of it. A year passed, and Searcher still tended to his farm, which grew fruits and vegetables, while the rest of the city returned to simpler lives. The town now turned to wind turbines as a power source, which Meridian used with her crop duster on the town's lights. Ethan wrote back home that everything was going well as he and his friends handled the cleanup of the Pando plants. Jaeger was reunited with Penelope, his wife, and now enjoys a simple life at the farms with his son, Searcher.